How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this article that's on the screen before you from the New York Times. It says, "Can my children be friends with white people?" Now, I've not read the article yet. All that I've read is the headline and the author, an Ekow N Yankah. That's probably not his birth name, but we'll get to him in a little bit. I'm going to show you his picture, and you're going to be able to kind of understand what's going on as time progresses, I assume. Now, this is one of two articles that was released today, Sunday, November the 12th of 2017. I know it says the 11th right there, but it also says Sunday Review. So it probably was posted yesterday, but released today. And the other article is something that says, "We're sick of racism," literally. And it looks like you got this black kid or a black person, male, dead or dying. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I'm going to leave that one off to the side for now. I want to focus on this. And the reason why is because I looked the author up and then I know how he looks. So let's take a look right now and see what's going on. Here we are. This is Mr. Ekow N Yankah, as it says right there on the bottom of the screen. He's talking about Trayvon Martin right here, and you already know what he's talking about. I'll link to this video in the description box if you want to see it for yourself. But look at my man's attire. I'm not quite sure what color suit this is. It's like a tan. You have on your undershirt. You have on your shirt open, chest kind of out, and you have on cowrie shell necklace and a pocket square. I mean, what kind of outfit is this? I'm not trying to really be critical of the man's dress, but I think how a man presents himself tells you a lot about him, especially when he's giving you an op-ed, which is something that comes from him. Okay. So you need to kind of be able to judge a man by his appearance, by what he says, as to how information that he's giving you is going to be perceived. You understand? Do you think it's going to be serious, not serious, or whatever? If you got a guy coming to work in a clown suit, maybe he's not going to write serious articles about some controversial racial issue. So we're going to get straight to the article and see what it says. Like I said, I've not read it. All that I've read is the headline, and I looked the guy up because I know what the person's name is, and that's it. And you see this piece of art right here, some black boy, victim. I can already tell what that is. Okay, here we go. My oldest son, wrestling with a 4-year-old's happy struggles, is trying to clarify how many people can be his best friend. My best friends are you, mama, my brother, but even a child's joy is not immune to this ominous political period. The summer's images of violence in Charlottesville, Virginia prompted an array of questions. Some people hate others because they are different. I offer lamely. A childish but distinct panic enters his voice. But I'm not different. It is impossible to convey the mixture of heartbreak and fear I feel for him. Donald Trump's election has made it clear that I would teach my boys lesson generations old, one that I, for the most part, nearly escaped. I would teach them to be cautious. I would teach them suspicion, and I would teach them distrust much sooner than I thought I would. I'll have to discuss with my boys whether they can truly be friends with white people. Meaningful friendship is not just a feeling. It is not simply being able to share beer. Real friendship is impossible without the ability to trust others, without knowing that your well-being is important to them. The desire to create, maintain, or wield power over others destroys possibility of friendship. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous dream of black and white children holding hands was a dream precisely because he realized that in Alabama, conditions of dominance made real friendship between white and black people impossible. So what you trying to say? You're trying to say that whites are still like the dominating force over black people? You're trying to say that slavery is still around and that you got a master somewhere? I mean, come on, man. I want to see where you go with this. I'm really interested to see where this goes. History has provided little reason for people of color to trust white people. So people of color. So now you're shifting it from blacks. You're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. and slavery and stuff like that. You're shifting it from that to just anybody that's not white. Okay. In this way, in these recent months have put in the starkest relief the contempt with which the country measures the value of racial minorities. America is transfixed on the opioid epidemic among white Americans who often get hooked after being overprescribed painkillers, while studies show that doctors underprescribe pain medication for African Americans. Okay, so that right there, I mean, okay, so let's pause right here. Let's just take a look into this. You just said that the opioid crisis is because of overprescription of painkillers to white people, but yet they underprescribe black people. So isn't that a good thing? And I bet you a lot of these doctors are not black. They're not people of color. They probably white. So by your own reasoning, the white man is intentionally not allowing the black man to become hooked on drugs. So that right there kind of like kills your whole argument, or at least a piece of it. I mean, to me, maybe you didn't see it that way, but I see it that way. And beyond that, the whole thing about the opioid crisis is the death that it causes, because you probably want to compare it to crack. And I lived through the crack era. I had people die in the crack era. I know people on crack right now in my family. So I know what it did. But the problem is, with the crack era came a lot of violence. With the opioid crisis, not so much violence. It's about the death. It's about the children that are born hooked on it. It's different than the crack era was. I've lived through both and I understand what both are about. But let's keep going. But when black lives were struck by addiction, we cordoned off minority communities with the police and threw away an entire generation of black and Hispanic men. Because of what I just said, it was because of the violence. You had all these black men out here terrorizing the community with violence. If you ever seen New Jack City, that's real. I mean, I lived through it, like the early 90s. The violence was out of control. Like Chicago is bad now, but you're talking about 900 to 1,000 murders in the early 90s per year. Now it's about 600. That's still high. That's really high, but it was much worse in the 90s. Same thing with New York, Philly, Detroit. All these places are bad, but they were much worse in the 90s because of the crack. The heroin epidemic is not making the violence spike like the way it did back in the late 80s and early 90s, but let's keep going. Likewise, despite centuries of exclusion and robust evidence of continuing racism, minority underemployment is often couched in the language of bad choices, personal responsibility. When systemic joblessness strikes swaths of white America, we get an entire presidential campaign centered on globalization's impact on the white working class. It ain't just the white working class. A lot of black folks lost our jobs to globalization and unions, because in Detroit, there was a lot of black folks that were up there working in the vehicle factories, Ford, Chrysler, GM, etc. Globalization hurt them as well. So you're trying to say that it's about white people. It ain't just about white folks. It's about everybody that lost their job. When Trump went to Indiana to try and fix Carrier, you saw people of all walks of life. You saw black, white, Puerto Rican, candy stripe. You saw people from all different colors in there trying to get their job, trying to save their job. So it ain't just about white folks, but let's keep going. Even the number of some rich or visible African Americans to protest that America, talking about the NFL, Colin Kaepernick, hands up, don't shoot, all this, that, and the third, and kneeling, and its laws and then its police has rarely been just to all, has been met with howls of a president who could not tolerate that the lucky and the uppity do not stay in their place. That's a Colin Kaepernick, little subtle, whatever. As against our gauzy national hope, I will teach my boys to have profound doubts that friendship with white people is possible. When they ask, I will teach my sons that their beautiful hue is a fault line. Spare me platitudes of how we are all the same on the inside. I first have to keep my boys safe. And so I will teach them before the world shows them this particular brand of rending, violent, and often fatal betrayal. Often fatal, huh? Really? Citation needed. Let me assure you that my heartbreak dwarfs my anger. I grew up in a classic Midwestern college town. With all its American faults, it was a diverse and happy childhood kind of place. Slightly dull in the way that parents wish for their children. If race showed in class lines, school cliques, and being pulled over more often, our little Americana lacked the deep racial tensions and mistrust that seemed so hard to escape now. So basically you saying you grew up and it was all good. You didn't have all this racial stuff happening to you. But now you want to sit there and talk to your boys about how bad the big bad white man is. But you didn't experience it. But let's keep going. What's surprising is that I am heartbroken at all. It is only for African Americans who grew up in such a place that watching Mr. Trump is so disorienting. For many wary minorities, the ridiculous thing was thinking friendship was possible in the first place. It hurts only if you believe friendship could bridge the racial gorge. Of course, the rise of this president has broken bonds on all sides, but for people of color, the stakes are different. Imagining we can now be friends across this political line is asking us to ignore our safety and that of our children, to abandon personal regard and self-worth. Only white people can cordon off Mr. Trump's political meaning, ignore the unpleasantness from a position of safety. His election and the year that has followed have fixed the awful thought in my mind, too familiar to black Americans. You can't trust these people. I don't have these kind of feelings. I'm not so worried about the white man. I just don't live my life that way. I worry about me and what I'm supposed to be doing. That's it. I don't worry about nothing else. I worry about how am I going to live my life? How am I going to do things the appropriate and correct way? I'm not worried about the white man. It is not Mr. Trump himself who has done this. Were it not for our reverence for money, Mr. Trump would be easily recognized as the simple-minded, vulgar, bigoted blowhard he is. It is certainly not the neo-Nazis marching on Charlottesville. We have seen the type before. Rather, what has truly broken my heart are the ranks of Mr. Trump's many allies and apologists. Mr. Trump supporters. Okay, so now you just want to attack us. Now you want to attack me. Now is my time to get the verbal lashing from Mr. Ekow with the cowrie shells. But let's keep going. Mr. Trump's supporters are practiced at purposeful blindness that his political life started with denying without evidence that Barack Obama is American. Hillary Clinton started that. Don't forget, Hillary Clinton started that, and then Trump took it and ran with it. Do not forget that. It was her campaign. It was John Podesta. I remember that campaign. I watched it intently. She started it. He took it and ran with it. The same thing happened with the whole fake news kerfuffle because, again, that was her thing. She had little speeches and stuff like that talking about fake news and the alt-right. Trump took it and ran with it. But let's keep going. That this black man could truly be legitimate president and simply ignored. So, too, is his history of housing discrimination. Allegations have not been proven. He settled a lawsuit, but everybody gets sued. His casual conflation of Muslims with terrorists. I mean, come on. Like, how many terror attacks have we had in the U.S. and how many of them are done by Muslims? And the same thing across the world. Not all Muslims, not all, but we know what the pattern is. Let's not play games. His reducing Mexican Americans to murderers and rapists. That's not what he said. Well, he was talking about they do not bring their best people, meaning they have a lot of good people over there. Doctors, lawyers, chemists, botanists, everybody that can help the country go forward in a positive way. They don't bring them. They send their problems to us, the murderers, the rapists, the gangbangers, etc. That's the truth. Everybody knows it, which is why you have many legal Hispanic Americans who want border control, the border wall as well, because they don't want the same kind of crime they escaped to follow them. All along, his allies have watched racial pornography, describing Black America as pathological, yet they deny that there is any malice whatsoever in his words or actions, and they dismiss any attempt to recognize the danger of his wide-ranging animus as political correctness. But the deepest rift is with the apologists, the good Trump voters, the white people who understand Mr. Trump says unfortunate things but support him because they like what he says on jobs and taxes. They bristle at the accusation that they supported racism, insisting that they had to ignore Mr. Trump's ugliness. Relying on everyday decency as a shield, they are befuddled at the chill that now separates them from black people in their offices and social circles. They protest. Have they ever said anything racist? Don't they shovel the sidewalk of the new black neighbors? Surely they say politics, a single vote, does not mean we can't be friends. I do not write this with liberal condescension or glee. I'm sure you don't, sir. I'm sure you don't. My heart is unbearably heavy when I assure you we cannot be friends. The same is true, unfortunately, of those who hold no quarter for Mr. Trump, but insist that black people need to do the reaching out, the moderating, the accommodating. Imagine the white friend during the civil rights era who disliked blacks being beaten to death, but wished the whole thing would just settle down. However likable, you cannot properly describe her as a friend. Sometimes politics makes demands on the soul. Is it that serious? Is it really that deep, sir? I doubt it. Don't misunderstand. White Trump supporters and people of color can like one another, but real friendship? Mr. Trump's bruised ego invents outrageous claims of voter fraud. There's been actual proof of voter fraud, sir. There's been proof. There's been evidence. I've had people call me, black folks from California, and tell me about the voter fraud that goes on. I mean, when you can just vote with no ID, how can there be no voter fraud? And then people say, oh, there's only been so many identified cases. Well, how do you know how many cases that really exist? Because the whole point of voter fraud is to get away with it. Mr. Trump's bruised ego invents outrageous claims of voter fraud, not caring that his rhetoric was built upon dogs and water hoses set on black children. And even today, the relentless effort to silence black voices, his macho talk about law and order does not keep communities safe and threatens the very bodies of the little boys I love. No amount of shoveled snow makes it all right. And too many imagine they can have it both ways. It is this desperation to reap the rewards of white power without being so much as indicted that James Baldwin recognizes America's criminal innocence. For African Americans, race has become a proxy, not just for politics, but also for decency. White faces are swept together, ominous anxiety behind every chance encounter at the airport or smiling white cashier. If they are not clearly allies, they will be seen unsafe to me. Barack Obama's farewell address encouraged us to reach across partisan lines, but there is a difference between disagreeing over taxes and negotiating one's place in America. The bodies of your children, your humanity. Our racial wound has undone love and families, and ignoring the depths of the gash will not cause it to heal. We can still all pretend we are friends. If meaningful civic friendship is possible, we can make do with mere civility, sharing drinks and watching the game. Indeed, even in Donald Trump's America, I have not given up being friends with all white people. My bi-ethnic wife. How did I know that? I knew that from the beginning. I knew it from the beginning. I was like, this dude right here, probably married to a white woman. It's always these guys with the crazy names, with the dashiki on, pro-black, this, that, and the third. They're always married to non-black women. I knew it from the start, but I digress. My bi-ethnic wife, my most trusted friend, understands she is seen as a white woman, even though her brother and father are not. Okay, whatever, sir. Among my dearest friends, the wedding party and children's godparents variety, many are white. But these are the friends who have marched in protests, rushed to airports to protest the president's travel ban, people who have shared the risks required by strength and decency. So your white in-laws are cool. Your white mother-in-law, like your white family on your wife's side is cool, right? But everybody else, they're just bad people. Okay. There is hope, though, implicitly without meaning to. Mr. Trump asks us if this is the best we can do. It falls to us to do better. We cannot agree on politics, but we can declare that we stand beside one another against cheap attack and devaluation, that we live together and not simply beside one another. In the coming years, when my boys ask again their questions about who can be the best friend, I pray for a more hopeful answer. Okay. Ekow N. Yankah is a professor at the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law at Yeshiva University. Okie dokie. Let's look at his Twitter profile. Let's see what's going on with that. Okay, this is the guy right here. Okay, is he Nigerian? What's going on? That's him. Let me see if I can zoom in. Cowrie shells. That might be his look right there. But I heard him talk. He's not African. He's an American. He just, he might be like a first generation Nigerian, something like that, or just a regular African American. Okay. So that's pretty much the article right there. I don't have no more to add, but I knew what that was from the beginning. As soon as I saw him, I knew what it was instantly. I can tell these types. They're all the same. A lot of these guys, they pretend to be so deep and so introspective and so, ahead of the curve, so unique, but they're really all the same. Guys like him and Ta-Nehisi Coates, another made up name. It's not his birth name. A lot of these guys are all the same. They preach the same thing to their group of people, to the people that have white guilt, to his white family members probably say the same thing. And they probably grovel at his feet, apologizing and stuff like that. Look, man, you don't apologize for nothing that you didn't do. If you didn't do it, like you sitting there watching this, if you didn't do it, it's not your fault. It don't matter. If somebody black did something to you, it ain't my fault. If somebody white did something to me, it ain't your fault if you're white. That's what that is. And anything in the past, what does that got to do with right now? You're talking about slavery. You're talking about water hoses and stuff like that. All those people are long gone. They've been dead for years. Why are you even concerned about them? Why are you so concerned about white people and the white man, all that and the third? Maybe it's because you married to a white woman, basically, and you're concerned about her. So that encompasses your whole world. Maybe there's part of it. I really don't know. But at the end of the day, as I close, I just want to say that this article is more the same. These kind of articles are not uncommon. You're going to see it a lot. Like I just told you, this was released today on Sunday, November the 12th, 2017. And you have another article right there from a different person. This probably a white guy. It may be a black guy. I can't really tell. You know, it's the same type of article. You know, talking about police getting pulled over, this, that, and the third. I may do this article at a separate time. Either way, I put it in the box so you're able to read it for yourself. But yeah, this ain't nothing new. So I don't have anything else to say. This article was just really a nothing burger, more of the same. You know, just a lot of insecurity. That's what I got from this. A lot of insecurity about white people and always worried about people like that. I mean, look, here's my final thoughts on this. Just worry about yourself, worry about your family, worry about your wife and your kids. That's it. And your mom, dad, whatever if they're still living, worry about them. Don't worry about the white man and people in the store. They don't know. They don't care about you. You know, a true friend cannot be determined by skin tone or nothing. Like that has nothing to do with nothing. You know, you may get along better with somebody that's black, maybe because you have things in common. I'm not really sure. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you do, but if that's the case, then that's fine. Socially, that's a better fit for you, but don't just say because somebody is white that they're automatically not able to be trusted, because what if somebody say the same thing about you? So you're not getting anywhere. If somebody says no blacks can be trusted, and then you say whites can't be trusted in a true sense, that you're not being able to push forward any kind of real way. Okay, so all the racism you say is around, you're helping to perpetuate it right there because you have racist views yourself. Don't call somebody else racist while you're racist at the same time. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.